morning, everybody. Thank you all for getting up early and coming in. We really appreciate it. If you don't know me, I am Michele Goldsmith. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Soundings Trade Only, which is the leading B2B brand, media brand within the industry. We have events like this one for the industry. We also put out a monthly magazine because we are a news organization. And we have social channels, we have a daily e-news, and we do a variety of different video content as well. So our goal as a publication is to reflect, inform, and inspire the industry toward growth, and we provide information to grow your business. So thank you for being here today. It's going to be a meaty conversation about changing consumer behavior and its impact on the marine industry. I would like to thank our sponsors that make this all possible, and that is West Marine, Volvo Penta, Marine Max, CETO, MRAA, and the Miami International Boat Show. So thank you to Informa. Okay, so I want to ask each of the women to tell you a little bit about who they are, how they got to where they are. We're going to make it brief because we have a lot to get through. So Stephanie, why don't you begin?
Great. My name is Stephanie Vatalaro. A lot of you may recognize me or know me from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, where I worked for almost 20 years recruiting new people into fishing and boating. This past fall, I started my own consultancy, and I'm helping with business strategy, I'm helping with thought leadership, marketing, and communications. So that's me.
Natascia?
I'm Natascia Hatch, CEO of MJM Yachts. I actually started in accounting over 10 years ago at Hatteras, quickly moved into new product design, then moved over to Iconic Marine Group, where I got to learn the entire back end of the organization, which really framed me being able to move into the COO position at MJM Yachts, and then 2 years ago was promoted to CEO.
Congratulations. And Abby?
Good morning. I'm Abbey Heimensen. I support the marketing efforts for Marine Max. I would like to say that I am a lifelong boater. It's very excited to be here today and talk to all of you about that and about what we're going to do with the industry.
That's great. And Lauren?
I'm Lauren Beckstedt, Global CMO for Brunswick Corporation. I've been with the company for about 15 years, have worked in a number of our different divisions as division CMO, boat group in particular. I'm really passionate about the industry and growing the industry, sustaining it. So I'm excited to have the conversation today.
Wonderful. And I'm Michele Goldsmith. I have done a variety of things in the industry. I spent 27 years on the component side. I've run factories, done product development, managed sales teams and marketing teams. And in 2018, switched to the other side of the table and have been in media ever since. So that is what we do. So let's begin. So let's talk about the new consumer reality, which is a conversation about value, trust, and choice. So I'm going to give some prompts today and kind of set the stage, and then we'll ask the questions. So there's some research that I looked at from McKinsey and others, and it shows that consumers are more price sensitive, less brand loyal, and more intentional, even in premium categories. Consumer studies show value now outweighs traditional brand loyalty, even among higher income consumers. So my question to the panel is, and Abby, I'm going to start with you. How has the definition of value changed in the marine industry? And how are you responding without eroding brand equity or aspiration? And you said two things to me. You said value equals confidence. Mm-hmm. And I loved this. You said when aspiration is rooted in experience rather than excess, value and brand strengthen and value and brand strength actually reinforce each other. Mm-hmm. So explain what you mean by that.
I think you did it.
No.
You need to be here. So thank you. The confidence piece is the one that it really resounds with myself, right? We have to give our consumer the confidence to make the purchase. And so it isn't about the access. It's not about the price even at that point. Is it, am I confident to do this? Do I have the education of how to use it? Do I have the education on how to finance it? Do I have the education on how to service it afterwards? And do I have the education, where am I going to put it? Am I confident that I'm going to be able to do any or all of the things? And our brands, whether it's at the manufacturer level, whether it's at our dealership level, if it's at the service level, we have to exude that confidence to them and say, this is going to be a very simple process. We're here with you every single step of the way, from purchase to your second purchase, your third purchase. Those of you that are in dealerships, I know you probably have the sign up in your dealership that says, sales sells the first, service sells the rest, right? And so you have to, it's not just that first transaction. It's the confidence that you are going to have many transactions because you have found the partner to make this simple for you.
Yeah, it's a long partnership all the way through. The after sale is as important, if not more important than...
It's more important, right? We can do any transactions. There's thousands of transactions, fingers crossed, happening down on the floor, right? This week, thousands of them will transact. It's those next steps that are the super important piece. How do I feel? And how did you make me feel? Did I just become part of a family, or am I going to stop by somewhere later on next week and just hook it up to my truck and drive away?
Exactly. It goes back to the Maya Angelou statement. People don't remember what you said or what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
So Lauren, you had said, you had talked to me about what consumers are willing and not willing to compromise on, and that they're asking more of a single boat. So if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with the points Abby made. I would add, in terms of creating value in this industry, even though some of our buyers are less price conscious, especially on the premium side, there are still some ways you can create value without just doing discounting. For example, we're seeing more consumers looking for more versatile boats, where in the past you might have had a fish and a towboat, and now you want a fish ski boat. Or same thing actually in the dayboat category, the hybrids and crossovers, where you want more versatile experiences out of every moment on the water. The other thing I think in terms of increased versatility is reliability. It plays into the service and experience side, but even if you can afford to get into this industry, and even if you're very motivated, you also need the confidence that you're going to have a good experience, that the brand you chose isn't going to break down. And that's where I actually think long-term brand consistency really does create a lot of value. But the brand itself, just a name, is not enough right now for today's consumer. And frankly, I don't think that's ever going to be the case again.
Yeah. And to that after sale, Michele Goldsmith, I know you're in here. We had this conversation yesterday. A friend of mine in the UK that's in marketing, she always says, how have you surprised and delighted your customers lately? And you have to think about that once they have the boat and they're a year, 2 years into the experience. And Natascia, that falls right into what you said to me, which is that feelings and emotions really play into the equation as much as quality and craftsmanship.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a different approach because I'm a builder. And so I want to bring people into our brand and I want them to stay. And the way to do that is, especially for a luxury buyer, is you really have to promote your craftsmanship, your attention to detail. But it's about that feeling for MJM. It's the feeling that somebody gets when they step aboard an MJM, and the confidence that they know that they are joining a family. Yes, they're buying a boat from a dealership, but they're joining an MJM family, and MJM is going to stand behind their product. We're going to have experience with them, and we're going to follow up, ask them, how are you using your boat? How are you enjoying your boat? What could we do different? It's really, it's developing a relationship with our customer through our dealerships, of course, but it's through that emotional attachment is, I think, how buyers are going to feel that there's real value behind a brand.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, you really reinforced what Abby said as well. You said people, and you put it in all caps, will invest if they have the support system that they need to succeed. So talk about the support system. Where do you think the most important pieces are that they need in that succession?
You know, I'm going to get into that in one sec, but I want to back up and say, I think the key thing across all of what we're saying is the research. Like, we need to be all looking at consumer insights all the time, you know, beyond our own brands and within our own brands. There's so many insights that say the why. Why is this happening? People are getting inundated with messaging. They're getting 4,000 to 10,000 advertising messages a day. Wow. Can you process that? That's crazy. They want a brand to be their everything, their go-to. Hold my hand, walk me through it, welcome me into your community. And, you know, aside from McKinsey, there's so many resources and data resources and insights that say people need that. They want that. It's going to keep them engaged. It's going to keep them coming back. So yeah, the value piece is critical.
And the resources that you mentioned too, your database is your resource too.
Yes.
Your voice of your customer. Ask them. They're
Absolutely,
there.
yes.
And you know how proud they are when you ask your customer their opinion? They're like, they asked me.
Yeah, they're recognized and they're heard, which is what every human wants.
Yeah, exactly. And the specific kinds of support that have come up in our research that are important to people, tell me how to do this. Tell me where to go, and create a community of folks that I can hang out with in this space and learn from. So, you know, it's changed. It's really shifted from what do I get for my money to what is the holistic value.
Yeah, the whole ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to play off of the emotional decision making and confidence. And Stephanie, I'm staying with you. So yeah, I looked at, Lauren, you had sent me some information. I wound up going to look at California State University study, and I like what McKinsey puts out, so I did look at McKinsey. But both studies talked about how confidence and emotional reassurance play into how they influence discretionary spending. So from your RBFF research, I know especially with women, you did a lot of research. Voting is both a purchase and an emotional experience.
Absolutely.
So how do confidence, uncertainty, and perception influence participation in boating and fishing? And what messaging did you find that truly motivates consumers to take that first step into boating and fishing?
So again, I go back to the research, and RBFF did a lot of research on this topic. It's super interesting. You know, perception is everything, you guys. And we used to say that there's a lot of misperceptions about boating, right? Mm-hmm. You see the big yachts, you see dollar signs everywhere. But those of us who are in it know that you can do it at a reasonable cost. We had a campaign called Find Your Best Self on the Water. It was about getting more women into fishing and boating. And what we learned from the data was only 1 in 5 women actually see themselves in fishing. So they're going into stores, they're picking up catalogs, and they literally don't see themselves represented. They don't feel like they belong, right? And when we did some more research to learn, you know, what these audiences needed to make it stick was the things like the how to, the where to, the community. For women, that's really, really big, is the community. They're going to go fishing and boating a little bit different than men when they go out as a group. But yeah, that's...
Well, and you can't deny financially what it would mean to the industry. I remember some of the numbers that you put up. What was it, close to $1 billion if you could get X% more women involved?
If we could increase fishing participation among women, that's an additional $1 billion to the industry. And the other data point there is we see women coming in fishing at a really high rate. They make up like 45% of newcomers, but they're also dropping at the highest rates. So they're coming in, they're not finding their community, they don't feel like they belong, and they're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. And, you know, at this point, there's a lot of economic uncertainty. And I know you also did some research that when things are rough, where do people go? And you talked to me about 4 things: stability, empathy, transparency, and value beyond the product. So do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, those things are really critical. Obviously, the value piece we've been talking about already this morning, that what can you offer people beyond the sale? This is not just a transaction and you're gone. Can you provide courses where they can learn how to? Can you help them navigate where they're going to go on their first time? Are there waterfront restaurants, etc.? The stability piece, we need to be super, 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 this is transparency too, transparent with people in this process. Sales, I think traditionally has been let's see what we can get out of this person. What are they going to pay for this? Let's try to get the top dollar. People want transparency. They want to have a full understanding of what they're getting into, and that honesty, and it builds trust. You want the sale to be, we've got your back. What is your budget and what is your lifestyle? We're gonna help you do what works for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's true. So let's talk a little bit about generational shifts and what the future customer looks like. So in some of the research that I looked at, Gen Z and younger millennials are really reshaping expectations around access, ownership, experience. Younger consumers value flexibility, experience, and digital fluency over traditional ownership models. So Gen Z is about 1996 to 2010. Younger consumers also are going to influence those future growth trends. And their spending will exceed boomers by 2030, they believe, which is really, that's not that far away. We're in 2026. However, Zach, you were with me when we heard some of the research in New York in September that those over 50, which is 34% of the U.S. population, still accounts for 56% of consumer spending, according to AARP. So I'm going to go to Lauren and to Stephanie. And my question is, how do companies balance? Because we don't have unlimited budgets. Would be nice, but it doesn't happen. How do companies balance attracting new generation voters, Gen Z and Gen X, without losing focus on the boomers and the older consumers who remain economically powerful and deeply engaged? And Lauren, you talked to me about the fact that, especially with the stress that's coming now, that people have moved to what's going to turn the dial in short-term sales, but we can't lose sight of the rest. And you talked about the explosion of media channels too, which there has been.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack. This is my favorite topic. You can reel me in here. But I would say generationally, I think that obviously I'm really passionate about this. This is super interesting, but I tend to believe that innovations that are good for the next generation, that attract the next generation into the industry, benefit all generations. I do think a number of these new access models, like our boat clubs, you might be interested to know our average age of our boat club member is actually slightly older and slightly more affluent than a traditional boat owner, which just reinforces the point that innovations, especially in the experience space, the total picture of going boating, they benefit all. I really think they cut across generations. But then how are we doing? How do we find the balance? I'll be honest, I don't think we've got the right equation right now. It has been a tough few years, and the whole industry has focused on the core consumer, not because we don't want to have democratization of boating, we don't want a more diverse, more represented boating industry, but because the fastest path to sales is targeting your core and converting them. So I think it's a completely natural instinct, but when you get a number of years back to back where you aren't focused on reaching the next generation, growing reach, growing awareness, in a category like this one where the number one determinant of your interest in boating and creating lifelong boaters is being introduced by a close family member or friend, a close relationship. So part of our role in building a sustainable future is to introduce this category to the next generation. And truly, we need to be doing a lot more. I think beyond generational differences, and we started to get into it though, the gender differences are really pronounced as well. We've talked about economic buying power. There is $128 trillion poised for transfer between generations by 2030. 70% of that is going to women. So when Stephanie talks about an extra $1 billion, I would say that's conservative. And women still, I'm going to overly generalize here, but still women tend to carry more burden in their household duties. They're working more than they were in the past. There is more women in dual income households than in the past. So as an industry, before we even get into brand choice, what are we doing as an industry to alleviate some of the time constraints or time competition? What are we doing to make sure we're reflecting our female constituents in our product design? We spend a lot of time on that. Actually, she's in the room today, Carrie Fedor. She leads our foresight work for our boat group. She held a product session yesterday with Women on the Water, which is our network of 700 women who are passionate about building a sustainable future, and just did a design review that focused on, walk me through from your point of view, what are some of the things you're noticing? What are some of the examples that might be different based on what women see versus men? And actually, they came up with one that I'm very passionate about. It's a very small example, but a lot of them gravitated towards the Navon T30 frameless windshield. I feel like for the women in the room, you might recognize why women are gravitating towards the frameless windshield. I'm 5'5". I'm completely average. And many boats that I go on, the windshield frame cuts right across my sight line. And so in this design review now, you got all these women who are like, oh, I really love this windshield. So something that's so innocent can be really impactful when you get there's a Yogi Berra quote. It's amazing what you can see if you just look.
Yeah, exactly. And I choose my cars that way. And there are certain brands that they cut the windshield at too much of an angle, and I feel as a short woman, I'm only 5'3", that I just don't see well. So I think that makes sense. And I agree with you too. I think that when you were talking about the media channels, you were also talking about online sellers. But as I look at it, and I talked about it last night at MMA, media is evolving. And what I think is happening, we went from print and digital to print digital video to print digital video SEO, and now to AI. So I think the way that people consume media has changed. Yeah. But that desire for compelling, unbiased, quality content is the constant. That is what will continue.
I completely agree. I think that on the innovation side, generational differences show up a little bit, but tend to benefit all. On the consumption of communications, I think there's really pronounced differences. And to the point the group has made, it's a very high bar to cut through the noise. You're going to scroll, ignore everything. So if boating isn't seen as still relevant, if we're not putting out authentic content that you can see yourself in, people will ignore it. And there is more competition than ever as it relates to talking to the consumer.
Yeah, and to that end, as we talk about top of funnel and that conversation, both you and Abbey are on the task force that are looking at what is the future of Discover Boating and what do those communications look like and how are we drawing that top of funnel. And then once we draw them in, it's that handoff and what happens after the handoff and how do you nurture them? They may not be ready for a couple of years. What do you do with those people? Mm-hmm. So thank you to both of you for doing that. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to, there is a webinar on March 4th that will go into all the details of what they're doing.
Lauren and I have been on this tour together, so if you haven't seen us yet, our tickets are coming out for the next one. We're going to take on New York, Chicago, all the next No, please do join the webinar on March 4th. I know we've got some great topics here we want to talk about, but the support of Discover Boating comes from the group here in the room, and it's how we're going to continue to change our industry and drive the change. Bill McGill told us yesterday, and I know many of you know who that is, our founder of Marine Max. You have to be the change of the industry. You have to do it.
Yeah.
We can't wait. We can't wait for the consumer to tell us what they want. We have to drive that. And that's what Discover Boating is going to do, and do it well with the data that we are gathering, the analytics that we're gathering, the health score, and exactly what Michele said is making sure we know what that consumer wants and when they want it and getting them to the right place at the right time. I'll let Lauren take it from here, but that's the biggest piece, is that alignment of who does what and doing what you do well, rather than all of us halfway playing in the pool.
Well, and not overlapping. I think, Lauren, you were going to talk about that, because it also saves us money if we're not overlapping and using our dollars for that effort.
Yeah, I think first of all, what was really eye-opening, I think we kind of as an industry took for granted that we were all growing reach. It's intuitive. Of course you need to grow reach and reach broader and broader audiences, but truly when you looked at how we were actually spending our dollars, we were not investing in growing reach. So we were kind of, it was a, predefined kind of destiny that we were creating for ourselves where we were getting more and more narrow. So just the alignment and the agreement that this really matters. It matters right now. We cannot sacrifice the future for the short-term gains was a huge win. And then, yes, I think as we got into what are the actions, the tactics that all the parts of the ecosystem between the manufacturers, the dealers, our industry associations like Discover Boating, MRAA, what are we all doing? We were all trying to do the same thing. And the way I did,
And all spending money on it.
and all spending money on it. So that's an inefficient dollar. And the way I explain this super simply is the way that we will connect and move consumers into this ecosystem is like a relationship. You cannot just I'll do it to you because when I proposed to Thomas the other day, he was like, what do I say?
He panicked. Actually, it worked really well.
Yeah, I don't know. So I explain it like a relationship. I cannot just walk up to Abby and say, marry me. And it doesn't get easier if I'm like, marry me, I'm on discount. You have to have a building relationship and you have to have multiple channels, multiple sources of information. It's a little bit of courting. You have to build into a conversation that gets you to the please marry me. And what we saw when we all laid out what we're all doing is all of us cut out these earlier touch points and the earlier softer conversation with the consumers. So when you think about the dollars,
There was no courtship.
right, there was no courtship. So when you think about the dollars we're spending to convert, those are inefficient dollars because we've tried to skip all the earlier steps of the conversation. So it is a supernatural intuition. However, it was sub-optimized. And when we all line up and do our part of the system, where you've got an organization like Discover Boating pulling people into this industry in terms of interest, attraction, participation, then you have the OEMs, the brands, manufacturers building interest in specific brands, and the dealers really getting people over the line and selling them on that total experience. Now you've got all your dollars lined up as efficiently as possible. That is much easier said than done.
Yes, it is. Well, and Stephanie spoke to me about the fact that we really need to customize and tailor it because no one group is the same. So segmenting the way that you do that courtship is really important.
Yeah, I think we have this a little bit of this mentality, and I'm generalizing here too. Serve that traditional customer. Go where your sales are, right? And that makes sense. Good.
And don't
business.
forget that, right? That's
don't forget
important
that.
too. Your
There's
repeat buyer is, yes.
But the good news is, in the digital age, there's a lot you can do on a low budget and low time commitment to experiment. I think we always need to set aside time to be experimenting on new things, the growth, the new audiences, what's working, and iterate. When I ran the Take Me Fishing campaign for RBFF, we never did the same thing every year. Never. Because you stop, you pause, you look what worked the previous year, you see what's going on in the consumer mindset, you look at what's happening with your customer, and then you adapt and change and grow. That's how you iterate, that's how you serve your people and those who may be coming into the market.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you said to me, and it goes to what everybody has said, is that they need to see themselves in it too. So as we look at how we're using imagery and messaging within what we're putting out there, it's really important. And we look at it when we do trade each month. And when Jean and I looked at it when we did soundings together, is what groups are represented? Are there Latino people of different ages? Are there people that are African American that are there? Are there women that are at the helm, not in a bikini off the back of the boat? So
Thank you.
and I'm going to go to one of those segments and go to Natascia. So let's talk about the premium consumer.
Okay.
And the evolving luxury mindset. So the research that I looked at said that even premium buyers are becoming much more, first of all, they're doing a lot more research. They're discerning, they're informed, and they're selective. But it's also a piece of pride that this has been an aspiration for them, and they've now reached this point in their life, their career, that they can own an MJM. So let's talk a little bit about that experience. And my question to you is, how has that premium marine buyer evolved? And what does luxury, I mean, that word is so broad. What does luxury mean in today's marketplace? And you talked to me about how intentional they are about those decisions and the impact and expectation on the brand to their full lives.
That's right.
So if you want
That's
to
right.
speak to that.
So, so luxury absolutely has different meanings to different people, but the luxury buyer who, for example, wants to buy an MJM is really looking at what the brand does, to your point, to their life, right? Like, what is this going to bring to their, to their dock, to their exposure with their friends, and the buyer is looking and really prioritizing intentional, experiential, and luxury into their decision. At MJM, we recognize that our buyers are looking for exceptional quality and attention to detail. And I was talking to one of my dealers who's really the dealer principal's really turned into quite a mentor for me, and he said, luxury brands cannot deliver anything except for perfection. And I believe that. I believe a luxury buyer needs to step onto a vessel and know that everything is crafted exceptionally. And not only that, but that they're going to have this boat for multiple generations, and they're going to build memories on it, and they're going to have a brand that's going to stand behind them. And, I really think that's important for MJM. And I'm just going to talk specific about some of the things that we've done. So our dealerships have service teams. If the service team can't handle a situation, we send a team, right? We are going to make sure that our luxury buyer knows that we stand behind our product. We were talking about women. So I'm a woman. I'm running a boating company, and there's a lot of women when I speak to our customers, and we had a situation, last year where a husband and wife were out cruising, husband gets injured, and she didn't know how to come in. And so we launched a program called She's the Captain, because we all know she is the captain. And it's a class promoted by MJM, but it's to give our owners, women, the confidence that they need to be able to drive the boat. And that's a form of luxury too. Like you talked about confidence earlier. It's giving our consumer confidence, not only, the husband or the gentleman buyer, but also, female buyers and their wives. So.
As they say, the husband might be the head, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head and lay the team on.
Yeah. So, seriously, like we've really evolved our brand kind of with that intention, because, a couple years ago, I felt like the MJM brand was luxury, but almost kind of sterile with the colors and whatnot. But we've done model year changes now where we've considered a woman's feeling when she's walking on the boat. So now it's ultra leather. It feels like butter under your skin. There's different appointments which are specifically focused to women. And, that's, we have to consider that when we're making changes.
And do you think that there's a tension between craftsmanship, innovation, and scalability?
Absolutely. So innovation doesn't always mean better. Innovation sometimes can completely compete with craftsmanship. And I think scalability too. You can try to grow a brand so quickly that you lose your attention to detail and you lose your quality level. And sometimes when you scale too fast, you lose the scarcity effect, right? So especially if you have a premium brand, you don't want to see it on every corner. You don't want to have 300 or 400 units coming out of manufacturing facility. We need to keep our brand premium. It needs to be luxury, and it needs to be wanted. And so you have to consider all of those things.
Yeah, that behind the velvet rope.
That's exactly right.
So I want to move on to, we've had a lot of conversations about trust and credibility. But I want to talk about journey mapping and omni-channel experiences and the role of experience. So some of the research said, omni-channel behavior is the norm now. Digital discovery paired with in-person experience seems to be where it's going. Some of the consumer research shows that while social media and digital platforms drive the awareness, trust still comes primarily from friends, family, and personal networks. In fact, I can tell you, I looked at charts from across the globe, and influences in social media in terms of decision making were at the very bottom. The only place they were a little bit higher on influencers was in Asia. The Chinese liked their influencers. But in terms of making a decision, number one on every single region across the globe was friends, family, and their own personal networks. So in a world where, digital influence is high, but credibility is pretty fragile, you need that in-person experience. So the other piece of it that I wanted to talk about, in fact, I'm sorry if I'm going off, but at our Fast Company Fest that we went to in September, the golden thread through the whole thing was about how technology and AI is being used to drive in-person experiences, macro or micro experiences, and the micro experiences were really the ones that were the most successful. So they're using that to drive brand loyalty, brand ambassadors, and to then mine that data of who's there and nurture the people onward from there. So I'm going to go to Lauren and Abby, and I want you to share an example where technology strengthened peer-to-peer influence, community, or long-term trust. And Abby, I'm going to go to you first. You had said to me, technology is effective when it's not used as the hero, but used as the connector.
Well said. Thank you.
So why don't you talk a bit about that in your opinion of how it all works within that omni-channel experience?
So what I meant by that is that in so many cases of when you're doing all of our research and we're, up to here in the data, right? And, you're just, the analytics are coming at you and all of a sudden you have to take a step back and be like, oof, this could be death by data as well, right? That there's so much coming at you and you're trying to make these wild decisions. And technology, for the most part, is a hero for us, right? It's the saving grace. It's the thing that moves us forward. But if we just rely on that, it's not going to work. What we all do is human connection, right? Boating has to be done, as far as I know anyway, has to be done in person, right?
Yeah.
You've got to get on the boat and physically drive it to go boating. That's the connector there.
Well, and Stephanie had said you have to see it to be it.
You have to see it to be it. So what we like to do is use this technology, use social media, using AI, using our website to bring people to a place where they are together, inviting them, showing them video content, showing them social media opportunities to come together as owners of a specific brand, to come together in a community, to go boating together, to know that you can go somewhere with a group of people that you feel comfortable with and get there safely. One of the things that we do at MarineMax is we do our getaways. They are for our owners, and you can go on a getaway anywhere in the United States. If you're a MarineMax owner, you're welcome to go on our getaway. And that can be a 2-week trip to the Bahamas. That can be an afternoon to the sandbar. That can be a trip down Lake of the Ozarks, right? And they see this in technology. They see that I can go there because they've seen the pictures, they've seen the video, their sales consultant or the marketing coordinator of the store has shown them, here's the experience you're going to have, we're going to bring you together. And also what it does is it brings you together as, I'm a new member to this, and I'm nervous. I don't know anybody there. Well, we're going to connect you in a group together. We're going to get you in, I don't want to call it a chat room, but we're going to bring you together as a group of people, a group of like-minded people, and we're going to let you experience this together. But we do that online first, and then they can go out into the world and meet each other in person and go on their trips together. The biggest thing that we hear, and going back to what Natascia was talking about, are women on water classes. And that is a huge opportunity. And we learned during COVID that we did them online. Right? We did our Women on Water classes. They could still be at home. They could still take the Zoom class, and then they could go experience the on-water piece themselves later in that day. But today it is They come to the store, they learn about it first, then they come to their local location, spend classroom time with the captain, and then they get on the water and they learn that experience with the boat. They touch it, they feel it. And the number one thing we hear when they walk in the front door is, I'm here in case something happens to my husband. That's why I'm here. Yeah, in case something happens to my husband. And when they walk out the door that afternoon, they're saying, I'm picking you up at your dock. We're going to go to lunch. The boys can stay at home. We've got this. But they learned about it online. They saw the experience, but they didn't want to be there by themselves. And so that class is open to anyone. It doesn't have to be a MarineMax owner. It doesn't have to be somebody that even knows about our business. As long as you are a female, because it's for women only, that particular class, but that is inclusive for them to get in there and have that confidence, but they see about it online first. They see what the experience is going to be first.
Yeah, and you were talking to me about some of the smaller, just 5 to 10 to 12 people that get together
Absolutely.
for a couple of hours and maybe go through what the design and rationale is.
We're using technology, right? Again, that's an opportunity. What we were talking about was so many of the brands that we carry, the boats will be launching, but they aren't here yet, right? They are maybe being created in Europe. They're just not on the ground yet. So it's a luxury experience. We don't need 100, 200 people in a cocktail party trying to fill space and drink them a beer and eat my cheese, right? What we do need is 5 couples or 5 people coming to a luxury location, utilizing technology to look at the boat, to see the new boat and what it's going to look like, see the launch, the features, the excitement with the video, and then we offer them an experience. You're now invited to go to Italy with us and see the boat when it launches, right? That's an over-the-top experience, but we use the technology ahead of time to bring them together to say, this is what it's going to look like, this is what you'll experience while you're there. Now, why don't you come join us at the Cannes Boat Show? Why don't you join us at the factory when it launches here?
Well, and by doing those different types of events, I think you also learn more about your customer base and what their interests are. And I saw it across multiple verticals. I went to a session with the woman that's designing the avatars you can actually go in and have an avatar experience before the Real Madrid game. And you can become one of the soccer players. And then as the game begins, everything within that avatar experience disappears. It was wild. But also, small clothing company we were talking about that has micro events for women where they have finance people come in and tell women how to invest. So maybe doing non-endemic events as well within the space that just gets new people into the space of the dealership is something that can be used as well. And Lauren, you went back to that golden thread of community as well and how important it is when we were talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about a status symbol, and I totally agree. But status for whom? It's for your community. So I think it's super important and potentially makes this super sticky. I think social media in general, in 2025, we actually just saw across every single category, social media was the #1 channel for brand consideration in marine, which, it's coming. It's just really interesting to see it pull through and all the data. But people don't trust brands. People trust people who trust brands. So you need social media to connect, to lower some of the barriers, to be introduced to marine. And then you need your people to get people over kind of the hurdle and feeling comfortable. Now, I think there's lots of really cool ways to talk about technology in this space, like the Real Madrid example. But let's not forget, this is still one of the most fragmented industries in terms of all the parts of our ecosystem. There are a lot of handoffs. When we talk about everyone playing their role, this is a niche enough industry where we cannot afford to lose a single consumer that we didn't have to otherwise lose in all these handoffs. And if I just use automotive as a proxy, it's not a perfect proxy, but Cox Automotive did a study with Google that showed it took more than 60 consumer touch points from awareness to purchase. And you could decide for yourself whether you think boating would be more than that or less than that, but let's call it 60. That is a lot. And all of these handoffs still feel cumbersome to boaters, to our community. You don't always know who to call. unless you've got great dealers who are just like, it doesn't even matter who you call, just call us, we will figure this out for you, or people who are really investing in experience. But I think technology as a vehicle to kind of cut through that noise and create a frictionless consumer experience is really kind of the secret ingredient.
Yeah, and that actually was my next question. And if we drill down and we talk about the tools that you use, because it is one long consumer experience all the way through the entire life of when they own that boat. So and Abby, you had blatantly said that to me. Nobody experiences brands in silos. They see it as one long journey. So
And the way I'd say that, and we've been, and MarineMax has been a Sea Ray dealer since our inception, right? And before, Bill was a Gulf One Marine, was a Sea Ray only dealer. The Clearwater store in Clearwater, Florida on Highway 19 is referred to as the Sea Ray store. It's been almost 28 years that we have not been just a Sea Ray store, and people will come in and be like, yeah, I went to the Sea Ray store, right? So there's no concept. It's all one.
Yeah.
And it should be. That's what they should experience. They should experience it from top to bottom. That doesn't matter. When I go in there, I get the experience that I want with whatever I purchase.
So if we talk about it from a digital experience through an in-person experience, I'm curious, and everybody can chime in on this. I'll start on this end and we can go down, but I'm curious where you think boat shows are going to evolve, because I do believe they're going to go from transactional to be more experiential. But what do you think that's going to look like in a boat show in the future?
I agree. I think if we do not realize experiential elements of community, elements of kind of frictionless experience, we will be challenged with boat shows generally as a medium. I think in my mind, it follows similar retail patterns where you're always going to need a boat show. How many you need, which regions, how many markets, that's probably going to fluctuate by macro events or other consumer interests and needs. But there's always going to be a need for boat shows to touch and feel and experience these products, get out on the water. But I think as we talked about, what are some of the ways you can lower the barriers, the intimidation factor, the representation? I think boat shows play a really critical role in building that initial hype and excitement and getting people on the water. Because once you get out there, it's very hard to take that away from someone. Once you feel that visceral experience of being out on the water where it just feels larger than life, you're quite sticky.
Yes. No, I don't think I could say that any better. I think that's exactly it. The experience that the customer has, and again, removing the pain points at a boat show too, right? You see people walking around, they've got 25 stickers on. They've had to give their their email 32 times, and they've only been to 3 booths. So removing some of that too, and having it be a great experience from top to bottom of what they accepted online, the hype that they saw, it's the back to Collins Avenue, all of that, right? That excitement. And so having that experience for a boat show transfer all the way through into the moment they walk in is really important too, and having them feel confident and not just overwhelmed that I've just been beat down for all the information I possibly could. I think that's something that we all need to take a good look at and make sure we do really well so the customer feels great about being here and has a good time.
Yeah, that's
part of it too, right? This is entertainment. This is fun, right? It's fun for us. It's fun for them. They are here. Most people, especially a venue like this, they're here on vacation, right?
Absolutely, and it's President's Day weekend, so yes, they are on vacation. So I wanna go to a topic, and Steve, I know you're in the audience. You did me a solid, and we had 2 sessions, one at IBEX at our Mix event, and then one at Dealer Week about the future of boating retail. And part of that conversation went toward price transparency and the role that AI is having in driving price transparency. And actually, the February issue of Trade is on your seats. And Kim Cavan did a fantastic article about price transparency, and a lot of the information is from the conversation that we had in those panels with retailers. So Natascia and Abby, I'm going to go to you on this. It's a natural escalation from digital engagement to informed consumers. And with AI-driven research, making price and features and competitive comparisons more transparent than ever. My question is, how is transparency changing the marine purchase journey? And how should the industry respond without commoditizing highly differentiated products? And Natascia, you and I had a conversation about this, and you said to me, as I wrote it down, transparency is fundamentally shifting the marine purchase journey from a dealer-controlled, opaque process to a consumer-driven, research-heavy experience. So talk to me about what that means in your world.
So what's so interesting about that, and I want to tag on to the boat show concept, because I think consumers come to boat shows, but I think they already kind of have in their mind where they want to go. And as far as like really building an experience for a consumer, I'm actually not sure the way that we have boat shows right now is the future. I mean, you can have a cocktail party and you can have an experience, but the real experience that we're trying to sell to our consumers is being on the water. And it's cumbersome. I mean, our boats are not like in a spot where you can just say, hey, come aboard this MJM and let's go for a ride right now. That's not the way the boat shows are currently set up. So I think that that's kind of where they need to evolve. But as far as like not commoditizing luxury brands, it's really, I keep going back to this, but it's focusing on that perceived value that the customer has. It's about showing that, I'm super proud of MJM. I'm going to say MJM is different, right? It's the craftsmanship. It's that owner experience that we're selling. And I also want to tag on to something we said earlier about the owner experience. We had a customer who came to our facility Tuesday. He's buying an MJM 38X. And he was coming because we were making some modifications for him. And while he was there, I gave him some designs that we have for our new 56R that we're launching. And he scribbled all over it, and he's so excited. And he sent this follow-up email saying, thank you for inviting me to be part of your consumer council. And that's what it's going to take. And that's what it takes for brands to have our customers feel like they're part of the brand. It's going to surpass, price transparency. It is. Prices are everywhere. You can go online. You can find everything you want about anything. You can type in Gemini. What is the difference between an MJM and a Sabre? Of course, Gemini's going to come back and say, well, MJM's the best brand ever. However, all of that information is so readily available. It comes back to that relationship, the personal experience, what that brand is going to do for a person in their entire life. So.
Well, and Abby, you reiterated what Natascia just said, because you said to me, transparency is not the threat. Incomplete context is.
That's right. Now, incomplete context. Why is the price the why? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's for a brand and for a dealership, it's the why. What do I get with this? Right?
Yeah.
And so if the price is X, then this is everything that comes along with that. You have your warranty. You have your experiences. We call them the 3 E's in MarineMax, right? We have expert guidance, we have exceptional service, and we have endless fun. And those are the things that we guarantee that we're going to deliver to you within this. But you're going to have the right people as well, right? You have the technicians that are certified with Mercury, certified with Yamaha, right? You have the right people that are going to be serving you and working with you as well. You have the trips that you're going to experience. You have financing and insurance right here at your fingertips. You have extended warranties, and all of that is backed by major brands that you can count on and rely on. That's all part of what you're purchasing when you take this boat. It's not just about the piece of fiberglass. And that's the super important thing you have to remember, is that we all look the same. The fiberglass, I know, sorry, manufacturers.
I was going to say, no, we don't.
We don't all look the same. That's not fair. But what I am saying
Don't
is,
sound about that.
Oh, my stars.
but we want to make sure that they have a wonderful experience with your brand, a wonderful experience with the dealer because of these reasons. And that's why you'll stay in it as well. So just throwing the price out there on this and saying, yeah, that's what it is, right? And no context around it of the why, you'll lose them, right? Because it can be a big, scary number.
It can, and you have to give them the full story of what they're buying into as well.
And you have to start that at a very specific point too. It's not, again, we talk about the Discover Boating. You can't start throwing prices out up here in the top of the funnel. That's just, you're going to be gone, right? So it's getting into boating. What does it mean? What are the pieces that I need to have? What kind of education do I need? Where will I store it? Those are those types of things. And then as you get down to the right lane, okay, this is who's going to start telling me these things.
But in general, I do believe that what's starting to happen and will continue to happen is that people will go on to AI. They will get a general sense of that range of what they're going to pay for something. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
It is not. And I see on a number of our websites as dealers or even as our manufacturers, but there's a place to put in a range. When you're doing your boat finder, where you're doing your research, you're doing your boat quiz on the website, right? It's, well, what is your budget? Right? They're already telling you because they think they have an idea, and that's great. Let's get them to the right place at the right time, quickly, right?
Absolutely. So because we've got such visionary people up on this stage, I did want to ask a question about leadership. And there's a quote from Brene Brown, who I love. She's a behavioral scientist out of the University of Houston. And she asked this question, and it's one that I ask myself every time I make a decision, which is, are you playing not to lose, or are you playing to win? And the women up here definitely play to win, and they lead teams that play to win. But I also know that it's noisy, and more leaders left last year than ever before because of the amount of pressure in this day and age. And almost over 70% have said that they're exhausted, that the pace of change is just too fast. So I wanted to ask a question about focus. And there's a Steve Jobs quote that I'm going to read to you because I think it's important and it's something to keep in mind. And Jobs said, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. So my question, with all of the infinite things that come up, is how do you decide what not to chase? Where do you focus your energy to drive real impact? And Stephanie, I'm going to start with you.
I love this question, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about always be experimenting, right? You need to have little experiments going on where you're testing things and learning and either saying that didn't work and we're not going to do it anymore, or this is working great and we're going to put more resources behind it. You know, in my time at RBFF, we were constantly experimenting. And one of the things that we did, in 2013, we launched the industry's first Spanish language campaign to get more Hispanic anglers and boaters into the market. It was called Vamos a Pescar. And the first 5, 6, even 7 years of that campaign, it went gangbusters. It was amazing. And then the consumer behavior started to shift. And what we were seeing in our data was people were coming to Vamos a Pescar, reading like one thing, and then hopping over to Take Me Fishing. Or they were coming to the social channel, they were coming in that way, and then hopping over to Take Me Fishing. So, you know, at that point we had to make the decision like, okay, we don't necessarily need a whole site just dedicated to that. We need a core amount of content to serve the bilingual consumer who wants, you know, kind of the technical information in Spanish, and then everything else in English. But it's little things like that. We launched a TikTok channel as well. And this is an example of when to do something. I was 100% skeptical, you guys. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm like, TikTok, fishing on TikTok? Like, what? My team was like, no, let us test this. We think we have the right formula. And they did a bunch of research. God, that thing went berserk. But again, we tested it. We tried it out, and we learned we had to have a mix of educational content with entertainment content, and it went crazy. So I'm all about the test. Test, learn, iterate.
So Natascia, you talked to me about focus groups and how you use focus groups as something that you do focus your energy on, whereas other things you may not.
So we absolutely. So we're having a focus group in March at the facility. So I want to know how our customers are using the boats, how they want to use the boats, what we need to do differently. And I want to take that information and make really intentional decisions as to modifications that we need to make to the brand. I want to say too, like I just went to Dusseldorf and I walked through and there's a ton of innovation on boats. Some things I found somewhat gimmicky. We're not going that direction. And I think luxury brands need to not be gimmicky. Everything that they do has to portray, I keep saying the same thing, craftsmanship, attention to detail, but that's really critical. But as far as like trying new things, I think it's great to try new things. And we're doing all sorts of different things for marketing. But as a leader, you have to be fast to be able to say, that was not right, and step back. And I mean, I think that's critical. Try, test everything, but don't have so much pride or so much, you can have such a personal affection for something and you've created and you're so excited and then you're like, well, shit fire, like nothing's happening here. And you know what? I was so nervous about coming up here and I was talking to our board and I say shit fire all the time. And they're like, just say shit fire. I'm like, it's not gonna come up. And I mean, oh my God, it came out. Anyway, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so my point is you have got to be able to say, I made a mistake, pivot, and go into a different direction. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether, we're trying a new system out on the boat or we're trying a new TikTok video, which I don't even have TikTok, but it sounds really enticing. You've got to be able to go and then pivot quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. And Abby, you said to me, focus is not about doing less work. It's about doing the right work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's along what they both just said here, right? Also being willing to fail fast and pivot. We say pivot a lot. I'm looking at Kylie over here. It's her to say pivot years and years and years. But yeah, it's about what to focus on, and it's about clearing out the noise and saying, we know that this is what is going to benefit our customer, our team member, and our stakeholders, right? If we can touch those three pieces and know it'll be successful with those three pieces, that's how we look at what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, and Lauren, you talked to me about investment, and it's investment of time, of passion, of resources. So if you want to...
Yeah, well, I really like what's been said. We're all making hard trade-offs right now, and it feels like things aren't adding up. And I think one of the reasons it feels like things aren't adding up is because this is the fastest change cycle we've ever seen in both the macro and consumers. And so if you think about the situation that we're in where almost every day you have to pivot. How do you do that? And with optimized or best situation in terms of where you invest. I think you mitigate your risks. You do test and learn. You don't go all in on something. So I everything the group has said really resonates with me. But I do think at the end of the day, the way that we see this show up in our day-to-day is where are we putting our money? Where are we putting our time, our energy? And I'm sure all of you guys are working with your teams to kind of adjust this way, but agile teaming models, get your teams comfortable with the idea that every single day I reserve the right to change my mind.
Exactly. And I have a life coach that I work with, and she said, you need to curate your time like you'd curate an art exhibit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's really important. So we're on to the last question because we're fast running out of time because it's such a good panel. So I wanted to leave on, as Simon Sinek would say, a note of optimism. So looking ahead 5 to 10 years, I wanted to know what would give the panelists the most optimism about the future consumer and what one change would most strengthen the marine industry's ability to adapt and grow. So Stephanie, you went back to test and reiterate. That is your thing, girl.
Yeah, and I won't hammer on that again. And I realized in my notes to you, I didn't talk about the optimistic part. Okay, here's where I'm optimistic. We are selling fun and relaxation and quality time with family and friends. That is something I don't think the consumer is ever going to be like, no, I don't want that.
AI cannot replace that.
No, we cannot replace that. And I think it's just about how we show up and how we evolve with what consumers are expecting from us, right? One thing I think that the boating industry needs to fully embrace, though, is adaptability. Don't settle on tradition or how things have always worked. We need to really embrace the fact that change is happening, accelerating at a pace like we've never seen before. From digital technologies to AI to increasing consumer demands around personalization of experiences, we have to know that we could pivot every day, every week, every month. So adaptability, I feel like, is an area we need to focus on.
Yeah. And Natascia, you said stay customer centric.
I said, yeah, I mean that, but I also think as in order to grow the industry, we also need to be very price sensitive and make sure that we are staying within our consumers' buying power. And I mean that because we just came off of COVID and prices were high. We were able to charge a premium. Those customers are now coming back trying to trade in boats, and they're getting a gut punch, right? Because the price of boats continues to rise, and what they purchased at a premium isn't worth as much as they thought it was going to be. So I think it's really important as for OEMs, because OEMs are setting the price for dealerships, that we continue to evolve. So this is where I'm most optimistic, like evolve with efficiencies in operations so that we can maintain good pricing and that we don't exceed what our customers are willing to pay, even for luxury brands. I truly think that's the only way the industry is going to grow. We can't continue to exceed inflation with the prices of boats.
Absolutely. And Abby, you talked to me about alignment and cooperation. And I think one of the areas where we're weak in this industry is in collaboration. I see collaborations between brands and brands that you wouldn't think would ever collaborate with each other in other verticals, in other industries, but I don't see it as much in marine. And I would love to see that happen.
Oh, agree. You said it very well, right? The collaboration between brands, between all the different things that we have to offer within the industry as well, right? We've talked a lot about brands and OEMs and dealerships, but we have, I'm looking out in the audience here of all of the other things that we have. We have engines, we have our towing services, we have service departments, we have all the accessories, we have all these opportunities, our boat clubs, all of those collaborations to keep people coming in and keep people in. And I think that alignment, and again, because of all the research and everything that the Discover Boating Group has been through in the last year, it really has resonated with me and sharing it with our team of that alignment of, are we really all rowing in the same direction? And then I can't say enough about what you two just said, because it's boating.
That's right.
Yeah, it's boating. Boating changes lives. Right? I can tell you thousands of stories of the getaways and how it's just absolutely changed people's lives, and people coming to us in tears of, I didn't think I was going to feel welcome on this trip, and now these are my best friends, and we're going home and we're going boating this weekend, right? That is real. What we do is real. And this is the last place that you put your phone down, right? You put it down on the dash and hook it up so it gets the music going, but it's down, right? And it's out of the way, and you're watching the kids either ski or tube or whatever. It's magical. And we get to bring that to people, right? I challenge every one of you today to go back and think of your first time on the water. What did that mean?
Abby, it's building memories.
It's building memories.
We had a customer come into the factory as a husband and wife, and the wife was talking to our sales coordinator, and she said, "Do your team members know how important they are?" And Melissa says, "Well, yeah, right. We value our team members." And she said, "No, they build memories." And you lose that when you're worried about how the seakeeper is going to go in, right? But at the end of the day, we changed our mission statement. Yeah, we build the best boats, and we do it with soul, which is a great book by Tony Dungy that I totally recommend reading. But the last sentence is, we build memories to last multiple generations. And that's what we're doing. And that's the optimism of, the future is we're building memories. That's it.
And Lauren, I think you totally agree.
I totally agree. Are you all the most popular person at all your cocktail parties? But my option, I just don't, there's no future scenario where I see boating going away. It just gives each individual who experiences it way too much. Then I'll add to that, cuts across generations. Consumers are still splurging on experiences. I cannot imagine trying to sell like widgets in this economy. I'd be so embarrassed. We have literally all the ingredients in this industry to be successful with the next generation. And actually, and we're already seeing kind of a stronger Q1, but in Q4, Bank of America put out data about luxury, spending in luxury, and every single generation was up in Q4 spending in luxury. Luxury wellness, luxury travel, luxury beauty, luxury watches, all up at CAGRs of more than 10% and projected to keep growing. So there is so much potential here, but the bar is higher. If we're going to cut through all the noise, the bar is higher for the experiences that consumers would expect us to deliver. But then building on the like putting your phone down moment, even in difficult economies, what you do is your natural kind of fight or flight instinct. You hold people close. You hold your family close. They're all on their screens. You're frustrated. It's like, okay, we just need to talk to like real humans here. Boat, you can take your whole family and get them out of the water, get them away, escape, and take some control of this little micro environment where you're all focused on shared memories. There's just too much good here that is not available in other experiences. But we really need to recognize the moment and pivot, adjust, innovate so that we don't lose this moment.
Absolutely. So I would like to thank Stephanie, Natascia, Abby, and Lauren. Fantastic panel. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, including MarineMax, Volvo Penta, Cito, West Marine MRAA, and the Miami Boat Show. And all of you for being here. We'll see you March 11th. We have an unbelievable speaker. She is a former U.S. Army officer, combat veteran. She is a cancer survivor, an author. She has led more than 50 trips across the globe for people to get out into the outdoors. She was an outdoor retailer. That is a free virtual event. So I hope that you will join us for that. When the information comes out, if women in the industry has touched you, I hope you'll donate to help us build our school. And I want to leave you with one final quote, and people don't know who to attribute this to. They think it's Viktor Frankl, but they're not sure. But it resonated with me, especially in these times. So I wanted to leave you with something to ponder, and it is this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is the power of choice. And in our choice is our growth and our liberation. So have a great day and a great show. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.